there, I'm Dana Jacobson from CBS This Morning Saturday. Today we're bringing you some of our favorite past segments of the dish. Second helpings, if you will. First up, meet a superstar Israeli chef with a fascinating philosophy on life and a restaurant where people are dancing on the tables by night's end. This restaurant is based on the same one you have in Tel Aviv.
Yes.
Where did the idea come from for that first restaurant?
There was no idea. I have no idea. I have no concepts. I hate concepts. Because concepts is to look from above and to try to find a system that will succeed. It's a kind of manipulation. I don't like it.
It is that philosophy which might help explain the transformation of Eyal Shani's restaurant, Hassalan, over the course of an evening. When somebody comes in here to dine, what do you hope they experience or walk away with?
I hope a very specific thing, that their life will be changed forever.
From a meal?
From a meal. It's not logic to believe in that, but I cannot stop believing that.
The early seating has the trappings of a traditional restaurant, but the late seating morphs into this. A feast for all the senses. Shani brought the jamboree with him from Tel Aviv, but after years of shaking up the restaurant scene in his homeland, Shani says he was looking for new sources of inspiration.
I came to New York because I saw and I understood everybody that is living in the world is dreaming about that city. That's a huge thing.
Put it in a diaper.
Shani started with Israeli street food. Early last year, he opened Miznon in New York's Chelsea Market. Shani says the pita is one of the best translators of a city's atmosphere.
I mean, I can take the main elements of the city and translate them into a food that in the end entering into a pita. When I first came to New York, I asked to myself, what is the sandwich of that city? And then I asked somebody, one of my suppliers, and he said to me, it's the burger. What do you say? I say, of course, it's the burger. So I understood that I have to make a new burger for that city.
Shani sears his burger on one side with cheese. He then folds it, which traps the steam and crisps the cheddar. Finally, the burger is put inside a pita with aioli, sour cream, peppers, tomato, and pickles. I'm making a fool of myself eating this because that's how good it is.
Oh, that's great. So we should shut down the cameras and the light and we should give her the pleasure.
My co-hosts are going to hate me because they don't get one. Miznon is also known for breathing life into a veggie long thought of as bland, the roasted cauliflower.
How many flowers do we have in one cauliflower?
10?
One. That is the flower and that is the leaves around the seeds. So in all the history of the gastronomy, chefs used to break it. When I understood that there is just one flower, I decided not to break the flower. You should feel desperate.
Right.
So it's the whole flower for you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, with your hands now to break it. It's melting.
It melts in your mouth. Shani's secret? Actually believing that each ingredient is a living creature with its own will, and then developing an almost metaphysical connection to it.
The question, is tomato is a tomato? The answer will always be no. It's not a tomato. It's something else. If it's something else, what it is? That is the journey of a cook. What is a tomato? What is a carrot? Why they are different? What does they want? Butter with tomato seeds, it's the best composition in the world.
Shani doesn't just bring his own take on the food and atmosphere in his restaurants. You see his philosophy in how they're run. Take Hassalan, which is only open 3 nights a week. How can that even work as a business model?
It's a $1 million question.
Maybe literally, right? Shani says most businesses only make money a few days a week anyway. And after 3 nights that go into the wee hours, he and the staff have nothing left to give.
It's almost impossible. It has to be a miracle, and that miracle has to be on each dish. To do it every day, 7 days or 6 days a week, and to be real authentic to your creation, it's a big lie. You cannot do it. You have to refresh your soul before you are doing it. You have to be starved to do it.
It almost seems as if Eyal Shani wants to feed your soul with each bite.
I cannot change your life. I can change one moment. I can give you an experience that will shock you. In this way, your life will change. And in the end, people are climbing the tables and begin to dance.
Literally, when it comes to
Yeah, literally, yeah. It's always happened like that.
Now to open fire cooking, but not your typical backyard barbecue. This is 8 hours roasting whole lamb, salmon, fruits, vegetables, and more than a dash of heart and soul. My co-host, Jeff Glor, has the story.
The work began just after 6 a.m. Francis Molman kept a close eye as two of his chefs prepped the day's feast.
There's so many details. It's such a fragile thing to cook with fires. People think it's a beastly thing, it's a manly thing, but it's not. It's extremely fragile.
First, the hanging of the ribeye, slathered in chimichurri sauce. Each suspended by wire, measured and cut to precision lengths to control for cooking time and temperature. A technique Molman created and is now mastered. That was followed by a dozen organic chickens. Both are staples of Molman's custom domes, which are now a global phenomenon. Next, an array of vegetables and fruits, including pineapples and cabbage. Wood is set around the perimeter of the dome and then lit.
Every day is different depending on the wind, on the heat of the wood. This morning, it was a sort of a blind date with this wood, which is great. Fuerte, 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 fuerte. Oh, I didn't know what sort of heat we would get from it, but it worked out well. The fire has been such an important thing for us, not only for cooking, for shelter, for warmth, that whoever sees a fire and sits by a fire, you just drop.
It's primal.
It's primal.
A whole lamb was set on an iron cross nearby. Then given time. Lamb is not something you often see at North American cookouts, and certainly not made this way.
Okay, and now I just flip it.
5 hours so far.
5 hours so far. And then on this side too, I'm going to add a bit of this delicious moistureness on it.
And that's a mixture of what?
Butter and herbs.
I get a sneak preview?
Yeah. Hold it from the very edge, still warm. I always like to pull the first piece with my hand. Is it nice? It's crunchy.
It's more than nice.
Molman also headed inside the fire with a whole wild salmon.
You look at this beautiful thing. Look at it. And I'm going to lean it and make it sleep here. Because you want the fish to be cooked, but slightly tied to the bone still, so you have to pull a bit. We baste all the food every hour and so. Even the pineapples, we put it in this syrup of pineapple every hour, so it's dripping, it's wet.
Francis Molman's goal at this and every fire, omit needless ingredients.
Which I think is the most difficult thing in cooking, If you have a fish that it's just cooked in the wood oven, and you just put on it a little sea salt and olive oil, it has to be perfect. If you hit those things, it's the most delicious things you will ever eat.
Molman's embracing of that bare style has been a return to his roots in Patagonia.
I think that childhood is where we always go back. Sometimes, I'm sitting in a very difficult meeting and I'm anxious and I go back to childhood. I remember the rain, the snow, the wind, and I get cured immediately.
You remember the fires.
I remember the fires, yes, because we live with fires.
Molman now makes his fires for celebrity clients around the world, including David Beckham and Guy Ritchie, and Gwyneth Paltrow. He's been a legend in South America for half his life, but his 2009 book, 7 Fires, put him on the map in the United States.
I think that we achieved a lot in the books, but at the end, you have to start your fire, stand in front of it, put your meat, and understand what's happening. It's a craft cooking, and you have to do it. There's no way out.
Over and over again.
Over and over again. That's why, sometimes my chefs say, "Chef, I'm so bored of doing this steak. I've been doing it for 2 years. I can't stand it anymore." And I say, well, but what you're learning is not about the steak. You're learning about how to stand, how to move. And that's something that you can't learn in a book. And that's the beauty of cooking. You have to do it.
From that bedded salmon to the domed meat to crossed lamb, every part of the Mullman presentation is dramatic.
Well, I must say I'm very honored to be here today.
Eventually, 8 hours after the fire started, dinner was served.
So we're going to serve first the chicken today.
String-hung chicken with cauliflower and a Crayola sauce. Salmon
Somebody else want some fish?
with cabbage and aioli. Lamb with sweet potatoes, butternut squash, onions, and gremolata.
I'll give you one of these guys.
Ribeye with smashed potatoes and a chimichurri sauce.
The fat is very good.
For dessert, burnt peaches and plums with pineapple, mascarpone, and amaretto, all along with plenty of wine.
When people look at your cooking, your life, everything, what do you want people to take from the Francis Mullman story?
I think freedom. I think there's a lot of fear. I think the worst enemies we have are fear and routine, because they both freeze us. When you're fearful, you're like that. And when you're in routine too, you can't get out of it. And I think that changes is the most important thing in life, to change.
To Francis!
Salud!
Francis!
Salud, salud.
Up next, my co-host Michelle Miller went to the Yucatan Peninsula to a lush resort serving humble food while honoring Mayan culture.
In the heart of Mexico, on this lush plantation,
Yes, we're picking some beautiful flowers.
Chef Jorge Vallejo tends to his garden
Flower.
and his harvest. Whether grown in the earth or in these ancient planters, it all supplies the bounty of his new restaurant, Ixchín, which means corn in Mayan.
It's the story we want to tell to the people. One of the spinal cords of the Mexican gastronomy or the Mexican culture, it's about corn. So for me, it's a very, I would say, democratic ingredient, because it's not about the monetary value. It's all about the flavor, the pureness of the ingredient. And that's why we want us to say, we are corn.
His mission, to distinguish a Mayan eating experience by preparing humble ingredients with modern flair.
And cook it from, only from one side.
Like escolar, a buttery fish from the Gulf of Mexico.
Yummy. Here it is.
Proven when I gave it a taste.
These flavors, what are the main line flavors? Look at you just digging it up. Look at you. Oh my God.
Do you feel the smokiness of the fish?
Don't eat all of my fish. This is really good. Jorge, it's delicious.
I hope you enjoyed.
Equally as delicious, the beauty of this setting. Ixchín anchors Chablais, a luxury resort built on the grounds of an old hacienda. His restaurants have become a retreat for global visitors, and Vallejo says recently have been a bridge to Mexico's northern neighbor, the U.S.
I will say 90% of the people that comes into the restaurant are not Mexicans. Actually, we have to give English lessons to our waiters, because probably out of that 90%, 60% of the people are Americans.
Ixchín is 45 minutes from Mérida, the Yucatan capital, but it feels like a place from another time.
So this was actually the factory where they made the sisal.
But a 19th century plantation that once produced rope now provides relaxation for its customers and employment for the local community.
So much of this area is influenced by Mayan culture.
It is. It's all about Mayan culture. The people still now these days, they are very proud about their culture. They are very proud about being Mayans. They are actually the ones that keep the tradition. They're the ones that keep the flavors. They're the ones that keep the environment. Mexico is not one thing. If you go to Oaxaca, they have their own traditions, their own flavors, even their own past. It's
With
different.
an African influence.
Yeah.
His own food story started early.
I heard that when you were a kid, instead of toys for Christmas, you would ask for roast chicken.
I can eat chicken and rice every day. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Probably the kids are the most wise people in the world because they live now, the present. For me, being a cook or serving people, it's about that.
That kitchen-obsessed kid who had trouble concentrating in school decided to give cooking a try.
I was just in my own world. I was lucky enough to find something that I can lose myself, which is cooking.
But Ikshim also quenches a thirst for another ancient tradition.
Tequila was born in Mexico, in Tequila, Jalisco.
Luis Ronzon and Luis Alberto Flores Muñoz are experts in tequila.
You don't need to pour that much, but that's a lot for me.
Ikshim has the largest tequila collection in the world, 3,800 bottles strong. Its oldest, the Jose Cuervo, which has been around for 240 years.
If you wanna try a sip,
Just a little sip.
just a little one.
Our Mexican dish would not be complete
Fire.
Fire.
without a lesson in the proper etiquette of tequila sipping. Because tequila, like the cuisine here in this pocket of paradise, is to be savored.
Oh, wow, that's very smooth.
Tequila may be really high quality spirit that you can enjoy just as you enjoy cognac.
For Chef Vallejo, the way to honor his Mexican heritage is to bring that Mayan cuisine to the world stage.
And that's what we want to showcase here in the restaurant, the pureness of the ingredients, but how can really works in a luxury ambience.
Mission accomplished. Because Quintanil has been rated one of the top restaurants in the world.
Yes.
Am I wrong about that?
No.
Why are you looking surprised?
No, I'm feel, very proud about what we achieved already. I'm just, as I told you, I'm still learning. I'm still wanted to do more. So for me, of course, it's as you're saying, mission accomplished, but still not finished.
This next chef I had the pleasure of meeting has 2 hip eateries in California. She's been the subject of a Netflix documentary, and she's a political advisor to the president of Mexico. Inside Chef Gabriella Cámara's San Francisco eatery, Cala, fine dining meets finger food with her Mexican small plates.
Tostadas, tamal, tostadas de esa.
Cámara brings a lifetime of cooking experience into the kitchen, but no formal training. The former art history student doesn't think of her food as art, like a painting. It just happens to come out that way.
I would start with these.
Take Cala's signature, trout tostadas with chipotle, avocado, and fried leeks.
This is sort of our little staple dish, so I wanted to make this for you.
This is fantastic. Cámara garnishes her abalone tostada with trout roe, Orabi bonito flake-infused aioli, and the blue-flowered herb borage. I don't want to eat it. It's too pretty.
I love very simple flavors, but I want them to be bright. So that's why I use a lot of acid in lemon, in lime.
But it's this dish that blends all her varied influences.
So this is pasta, but pasta made in a Mexican Spanish way.
Fried pasta noodles and clams cooked with liquid tomato and chipotle chili.
My mother would say this is not pasta. Because what is this deep frying of pasta?
Delicious. Yeah. Cámara is the daughter of an Italian mother and Mexican father. She was raised in Mexico City. What was it like having those different influences as a young kid?
It was great, and we always had all these periods of time that we lived in Italy, or periods in which we came to the States, or a lot of traveling because of my parents' work, and also just because they really wanted us to have exposure to a wider world.
Did you think that food was your future, though?
No. I mean, I thought I would always cook and eat well, but I did open a restaurant when I was very young, and I had no idea. And I realized how much I loved it.
Cámara was still in college in Mexico City when she opened her first restaurant, Contramar, with 3 friends.
It was an experiment, but we were very serious about it. We wanted it to work. We invested very little money. We all scraped from our savings here and there, and it happened.
Almost immediately, Contramar became a sensation. How do you take what starts as what sounded like it just started as, let's do this will be fun, and turn it into the success that it became?
I think with a lot of work, with a lot of attention, with a lot of caring, and I know that common sense is the least common of our senses,
right?
But I actually turned out to be a very good manager just because I was my common sense worked in a restaurant.
5 years ago, Cámara and her family moved to the Bay Area. She was shopping around San Francisco for a location for a new restaurant when...
And I found this space and I thought, I need to do something here. It's so good. It's
Is this the space we're sitting in?
This is the space
we're sitting in. I get it by sitting here.
And I saw the beams, I saw the ceiling, and I saw that it had that full block opening, and I really, really loved it. So that's why I opened Gala.
Along with the main dining room in the front, Cámara operates a taco stand in the back of the building, Tacos Cala. And last month, she and fellow chef Jessica Kozlow opened a new restaurant, Onda, in Santa Monica. But officially, Cámara has moved back to Mexico City, where she's serving as a cultural advisor to Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Mexico's president just happened to be a customer at Contramar. He was in San Francisco about 2 years ago on business when he stopped by Cala to see her.
And he said, Gabriella, this time I'm going to win. And you're going to have to come back to work with me in Mexico. And I thought, first you win. We've gone through this twice already. 2 elections that have been not successful.
López Obrador was elected president in July 2018. Cámara says the chance to serve all the people of Mexico was impossible to turn down.
I think it's worth my time, for sure, and my life, to give it a shot at helping him. I never set out to serve others as a mission, but I think that now it is my mission.
It's just one more thing added to Cámara's plate.
This has mussels,
right,
and a little bit of chile serrano.
But even with the new responsibility, she's abiding by the old saying, don't quit your day job. My mouth is
and the masa gets in there, and it's good. I think food should be above anything delicious. And then...
Success.
Yeah.
You can find news and more stories like this every week on CBS This Morning Saturday. And you can find news 24/7 right here on CBSN, featuring live anchored coverage available for free across all platforms. Thanks for joining us. Take care of each other. I'm Dana Jacobson.